Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a brother out of Chicago, does work for NBC Chicago, Mr. Tony Gill. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm great, man. Thanks a lot for having me on the show, man. Definitely appreciate you reaching out.
No doubt, man. I know it's a busy time for you. How long have you been working for NBC Chicago?
So that's funny. I've been working for NBC for about 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, I haven't really met a lot of my coworkers in person
Right.
because as soon as I started, the pandemic hit, and I
Right.
haven't been in the office in about 2 years. So yeah, so
You,
I'm essentially still a new employee even after being employed for 2 years. So
you're still a new guy.
yeah.
I know you produce a lot of content around the Chicago
Mhm.
Bulls. How far does your Bulls fandom go back?
Well, being born and raised on the South Side in West Inglewood, man. You kind of inbred it in you.
Yeah.
So I'm only 29, so I still got some vague memories of the last Bulls championship run, and my dad was a big MJ fan, so that's all we watched. He would tape games because if we had something to do, church or whatever. He would tape the games
Yeah.
on VHS, and then he would play, and we would watch it back when we got home. So man, my Bulls, I guess it's kind of waned now being in the business and
Yeah.
knowing how the sausage is made.
Mm-hmm.
The fandom aspect is kind of gets jaded, but I want them to do well.
For sure.
It's good for business when they do
Sure.
well. So I want all the teams to do well. But yeah, man, that's as far as I can remember. Was like that last championship. It's probably my first early memories of being a Bulls fan.
These Bulls, they are in playoff contention right now. They're the fifth seed. This season, they went as high as one. This time last year, they weren't on pace for the playoffs. In fact, they didn't make it. A lot of moves were made in the offseason. Guys added DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball. What would you say is the biggest reason for the Chicago Bulls turnaround?
Probably DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso are probably the biggest reasons why the Bulls have been lauded and have done so well this year. You look at everything else. Of course, they added Lonzo Ball, but he's been hurt for the majority of the season. So is Alex Caruso, but it's when they first signed DeMar DeRozan, I was a bit sketchy on the fit, but right away,
Why?
he ended up settling in and being comfortable and leading his team. So a veteran guy that has been in these situations before, who is still an impact player at his age currently for this season. Offensively, it's been a complete turnaround from what it's been the last couple of years. So offensively, it's certainly been DeMar DeRozan. But defensively, I think it's been Alex Caruso in terms of how well that they've improved from last season on the defensive end. Alex Caruso at the point of attack on screen rolls, hounding dudes off the ball, on the ball. He has completely changed the identity of what that backcourt defensively is. The Bulls have always had problems the last, 5 years or so protecting the paint. They still have problems protecting the paint, but it's helped that they have ball hawks like Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. I thought for sure that if healthy, both of those guys were going to make, an all defensive team.
Wow.
They were that good at the point of attack if they remain healthy. But obviously, they missed a lot of games together. So, but yeah, if I had to pick two reasons why, this turnaround has happened, it's probably DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso.
DeMar DeRozan. I feel like once he was traded from the Raptors to the Raptors won a championship. I feel like he went on a PR tour trying to explain why the Raptors were able to win the championship without him. He blamed all type of things except the fact that, Kawhi Leonard is just better than you. You know what I'm saying? So is DeMar DeRozan different than the man we saw in Toronto or San Antonio?
Yeah, I think he's different in the way that he approaches the game, and I want to be I want to be honest, but clear about what I want to say here.
Mm-hmm.
DeMar has grown as an individual. He's been through a lot, with the passing of his father. He has become a better version of who he was as a person individually. You hear him in press conference. He's the elder statesman. He's the go-to guy. He's mentoring people.
Mm-hmm.
He has certainly grown in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the basketball court, he has a lot more opportunities than he did in San Antonio, right?
Why is
Zach
that?
LaVine.
Okay.
Well, in terms of just his role, right?
Okay.
In San Antonio, he was a bit more of a playmaker. He had to play much within the system, a bit more restrictive. The way the Spurs play, they play a more team incorporated brand of basketball than the current state of the Bulls, where it's typically as DeMar and Zach go, the rest of the Bulls go. The offense is truly dependent upon the play of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine for them to win. And they have to play well offensively in order for them to win games. You see that in the statistics where we talked about it on the last Bulls Talk podcast, that it's not convenient that the Bulls win streak ended when DeMar DeRozan stopped playing like Wilt Chamberlain. They coincide with each other. He was playing excellent, and he had to come down to earth. He wasn't going to be Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan for the rest of the year.
What was that? That was 10 games of 30 plus points, right?
Yeah, 35 plus points, shooting around 60% from the field. That wasn't going to happen.
Why do you think he was able to put that stretch together? Like, how do you explain that? Because I saw that over here in New York, and I'm like, yo, what's going on in Chicago? That's what made me reach out to you.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple different things, right? You look at matchups. And he was just on a hot streak, right? And I think a little bit tactically, he's kind of zigging when everybody's zagging, for the first half of the season, where people don't guard the mid-range anymore. They want you to take contested mid-range shots. It's the worst shot in basketball right now. So they want to run you off the three-point line, and they don't want to let you get all the way to the rim. So he's got free reign because every team is usually trying to guard the places that he's not, or that he doesn't want to be. So now in the second half of the season, where defenses start to get tightened up, playoff position is at stake in these regular season games now, teams are like, nah, this is not going to happen. You are not going to beat us from the mid-range anymore. So they just decide to double, and it ends up shutting down the rest of the Bulls offense because they've been so dependent on his offensive production that they didn't really prepare themselves for, okay, they're going to start double teaming him in the paint. How are we going to find other places for offense? And that goes back to, kind of my original point of his game is his game.
Yeah.
And the national view, and I've always wanted to not be so insular because I live here. I watch the Bulls primarily, but I do keep an eye around the league and what everybody else is saying about the league. And DeMar DeRozan is still DeMar DeRozan, right? He's, in terms of his gameplay, you're not supposed to build around DeMar DeRozan. He is supposed to be an added piece to an already budding star or star piece. And I think that's what's happening, I think that tells in a short, kind of long answer that I just gave, the season of the Bulls is, DeMar, nobody was really kind of guarding him or making an emphasis to guard him in terms of him being the lead dog on the offensive end. And then they start double teaming and everything kind of flips the script.
I'm looking at the playoff matchups right now. If it ended today, Bulls are 5 matched up with the 4th seeded Celtics. And the Bulls remind me of the Celtics a lot because they have 2 players who they try to sell to us as co-stars, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and with the Bulls, it's DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. I don't think that can work. I think at some point there has to be an alpha. At some point, we have to decide who is going to take the shot. So, Mr. Tony Gill, who's the best player on the Bulls?
This season has been DeMar DeRozan, and I don't think it can be doubted that it hasn't been DeMar DeRozan. He's been the more healthier of the two. He has been the more productive of the two, and I think the votes in the All-Star game kind of solidified that position for him on this team. That DeMar is the go-to guy, and he's got playoff battles. He's got notches on his belt. more than Zach at this point. He's been the places that Zach wants to go. So until Zach gets there, Zach can't, and until Zach gets healthy, he can't really be that guy that the Bulls need him to be. So for this season is DeMar DeRozan.
Do you think Zach LaVine understands that? Because again, I brought up the Celtics, and I think they've been mega talented for years, but they floundered because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they kind of like think they co-stars. I believe one thinks they're better than the next. No, when Michael Jordan was rolling, we know who's taking a shot. When it's Shaq and Kobe, we know who was taking a shot. Does Zach LaVine know that DeMar DeRozan is the best player, and can that be an issue when the players come around?
I think that from what I hear and what I see after press conferences, how they interact with each other, they have a great relationship. There has been no signs or no rumors or anything out there that there has been any beef between the two. Earlier in the season, it was a bit awkward, right? Zach is used to taking those late game shots. And DeMar was, kind of taking them. And so that was awkward in the beginning of the season. But I think that awkwardness has dissipated with DeMar just kind of taking the lead on that. And Zach's been okay, with that. It's like Zach wants to win. And I think that's the biggest thing. He wants to get his respect, obviously, with his upcoming free agency and his new deal that he's going to be trying to get done after the season's over with. But he wants to win, number one overall. And if DeMar DeRozan is helping him win games, he's perfectly okay, with that. Don't get me wrong, Zach feels like he's a great player in the NBA. He's a two-time All-Star, back-to-back All-Star. He feels like he belongs in, the top players, the top 20, 25 players in the NBA. He feels like he belongs there, and his numbers say he does belong there. But yeah, there hasn't been any, issue or any beef. Now, again, every answer that I've given is about this season.
Yes, sir.
I haven't, discussed, maybe you'll ask about that later about the offseason. And that's a whole different conversation. But for this season, the pecking order due to health and due to just overall production, it's been DeMar DeRozan 1, Zach LaVine 2. And then everybody else kind of, mixes and matches underneath that.
Got you. If everybody's healthy, what's the Bulls starting five?
Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and Nikola Vucevic.
Wow, that's kind of a small lineup. There's like no real true four there.
Yeah, and that's the big issue that the Bulls hopefully can get out of Patrick Williams. And as he makes his return, as we record today on Monday, they play the Toronto Raptors at home. So he's not set to start, but he is going to play, according to Billy Donovan. And that's the big thing. Alex Caruso can play bigger than what he is defensively. It's, this teams, they don't really try and post him up. That is a trick. You don't want to do that unless you have an elite big man or a big man that knows what he's doing down there in the post. Alex can play a lot bigger. They've been messing around with that smaller lineup. It's been productive. It's been, in terms of plus minus, it's been on the plus side of things. It is one of their best, if not the best lineup this year. Obviously injuries not included. But yeah, they hope that Patrick Williams is that guy at 4. Otherwise, they're going to have issues. They already have issues guarding bigger guys, athletic big man. He needs to be a star for all of this to work. For all this to work, Zach LaVine's knees need to be okay, and Patrick Williams needs to be a star because Nikola Vucevic on the wrong end of 30.
Yep. DeMar
DeRozan on the wrong end of 30. Fans should not expect DeMar DeRozan to be Wilt Chamberlain again next year at his age. Like, that's not feasible. I don't think it's fair to ask for him to be that. So in order for all of this, the rebuild that AK and Mark Eversley are trying to do, it hinges on Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams being a star.
Would you say that's Billy Donovan's biggest concern going down the stretch, the size? Or is there anything else on his radar?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have any bigs. And Derrick Jones Jr. has been playing the 4, but he's not big man. He's skinny man. Like there's not a lot of weight and width to the Bulls lineup, which look at their rebounding numbers. It shows up in the rebounding numbers that they just don't have the size. Now, Tristan Thompson was a good ad, I think, in my opinion, at the trade deadline or at the buyout market for Tristan Thompson, who does have that, ability to offensive rebound and defense rebound, clean the glass, but he can't stay out of foul trouble. And you don't want to depend too much on Tristan Thompson. He's the archetype of what you need, but again, it's Tristan Thompson. Yeah. Like, you need a consistent guy that's going to be there defensively to be able to grab rebounds and to lock people down and just shut down possessions. And right now, they just don't have that. They got Tony Bradley. I mean, these are just guys at this point. They don't have a mainstay guy throughout the year that they can depend on. And Billy Donovan has to get really creative with his lineups going forward for the remainder of the season and into the playoffs, because teams are going to take advantage of that, and they have been taking advantage of that.
Expectations change over the season as we see the team develop and different things. Compare what you expected of the Bulls in the offseason to, I guess, what are your expectations now? What would you say would constitute a successful season as we move forward?
My expectations are fans' expectations. That's two different questions.
Shoot, go for it. Either way.
So my expectations are kind of where they're kind of at right now. I thought them being a 1 seed for those weeks that they were, I never believed that they were that, that good, especially knowing what their schedule was going to be like to close out the season on the second half. I knew that they just weren't going to stay there. And I knew DeMar DeRozan was going to cool off where he wasn't going to be that great for a long stretch of time. Like, it was fun. Like, don't get me wrong. It's been fun watching the Bulls and entertaining. After the last few seasons where it's been god-awful, the Jim Boylan era, like, it was bad here for a long, long time. So it's been refreshing to watch the Bulls actually be relevant this year. But in terms of expectation, I didn't expect much. I didn't think the fit was well. I got proven wrong. I didn't think Ayo was going to be able to contribute as much as he has. Ayo Dosunmu, the rookie out of Illinois, he's been playing great for a rookie, but look what they have to depend on. Like, they have to depend on a rookie to play great. They have to depend on DeMar DeRozan to be excellent, above excellent in order to win. They have to depend on the health of the rest. There's too many uncertain factors, I should say, that need to be depended on in order for them to win games. And you see their record with the top 3 seeds in both Eastern and Western Conference.
0-15.
It's poor. It's poor. They don't win against the good teams. And we have I tweeted out, we have enough of a sample size now to know that they cannot play with the big teams in the NBA. So what does that tell you? That means if they match up in a 4-game series, they're probably going to lose. And if they match up with one of these teams, and I'm not so sure about the Boston, right? I mean, Boston has Jason Tatum. If he played like this in the first half of the season, he'd be the MVP without a doubt. Right. It's just the fact that he's been playing like this on the second half, on the back half, and he's been hot. Like, the Boston Celtics offensively and defensively have been great. So I'm not even sure about that matchup. So if you're watching the Bulls, and if you're on the Bulls, right, you're on the Bulls management, or you're a Bulls player, right, you know how you've been playing against the top 3 teams in the East, and the sneaky Brooklyn Nets are in the back end too. Yeah. So if you're trying to avoid a first round matchup with like 5 of the 8 teams in a playoff setting, that does not bode well. That is not going to go well for you. So, look, a successful season is not being in the play-in and being in the playoffs. Gotcha. For this season. That was the goal, was to make the playoff. They made that push last year. It didn't work out. They doubled down on it and got DeMar DeRozan, got Lonzo Ball, got Alex Caruso, got players that was going to push them over the edge so they can start getting playoff experience and then build from there. So they're going to make the playoffs, but I got to say it's a failure if they slide to the play-in. They have to remain in the top 5 at least. If they drop lower, this season hasn't been as successful as they thought it was going to be initially.
The Bulls and the Celtics only played once this year, from what I saw. Back in January, the Bulls lost by 2 points, but that was without Zach LaVine. You know, the Bulls and the Celtics have another matchup coming up April 6th. So hopefully we should learn a lot. That's a big matchup, no?
Yeah, no. Now is the time where teams are starting to enact their playoff thoughts about what they think about you. And as we've seen with the Bulls, with the doubling of DeMar DeRozan, the way that they're starting to play, laying off guys, like playoff plans are being enacted right now. So the rest of for the rest of the way, if you're watching any team that is in playoff contention that you're watching, watch how they play and watch how teams are playing them. So it's going to be huge, man. They have a huge matchup today against the Raptors. The Bulls have the hardest schedule for the remainder of the season, or second hardest. They're at least in the top 5. From last time I saw, I think they had the hardest. But yeah, it's going to be a huge matchup the next time because seeding matters.
Yes, sir.
Like matchups are going to matter if the Bulls are going to advance to at least the second round, or are they going to be a first round exit? So yeah, this is going to be a huge matchup. The Boston Celtics are playing really well. Udoka has that team humming right now. It took them a little while to get it going, but they are playing as well as anybody in the NBA right now. And I mean, they blew out the Nuggets yesterday. Like I don't want to play the Boston Celtics right now at all.
Mr. Tony Gill, that was great, man. How can my people keep up with you, man? How can we support the work that you're doing?
Yeah, man. Just follow everything NBC Sports Chicago. I run all the podcasting, and you may hear a couple of my poetry voiceovers before a big Bulls game. So listen out for those. Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Tony Gill, at @VTonyGill, Gill, or Instagram at @VTonyGill. Gill. Get all my takes. We have fun. We crack jokes and all that. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yo, brother, that was great. Thank you so much.
No, Will, thanks for having me again. Appreciate it, man. Reach out anytime.
All right, brother.